All right, good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome all of you to our Veterans Day program today. I'm Mark Mischke, the principal here at Buffalo High School, and to our community members and to our veterans, thank you for being here. Today we have the opportunity, and I am honored to speak with you today on such an important occasion. We're here today to honor our heroes, to remember their achievements, their courage, and their dedication, and to say thank you for their sacrifices. Thinking of the heroes who join us in the group today, and those who are only here in spirit, a person can't help but feel awed by the enormity of the sacrifices this group has made. We stand in the midst of patriots and the family and friends of those who have nobly served. I'm hopeful that today's ceremony will serve as a small token of our appreciation for the courage, pride, determination, and selflessness you have all displayed. At this time, I would like to introduce our platform guests and audience. If you'd please hold your applause until all of our guests have been introduced. Please stand as your name is announced. Over my right shoulder, BHSC. Oh, it's like graduates sitting up here looking at you two. All right, thanks, Lucy. I'm proud to announce BHS seniors Lucy Johnson and Amanda Krinke. Please hold your applause till I get a chance to introduce everybody. And also our guest family and speakers, Mrs. Jeannie Gaida, Mr. Dean Gaida, Mr. Greg Gaida, and Mr. Nick Gaida. And over my left shoulder, we have U.S. Senator Tina Smith, Minnesota Senator Bruce Anderson, Minnesota House of Representative Marion O'Neill, Superintendent of Schools Dr. Scott Thielman, and Director of Teaching and Learning, Mrs. Pamela Miller. Please join me in a round of applause. All right. Thanks, everybody. All right, you can be seated. All right. You're good. You can be seated. I'll be with you in just a second. We'll have you stand back up soon, Jeannie. All right, thank you to our BHS student body and to our community members that are here in attendance today. And at the conclusion of today's program, I will come back to the podium and formally dismiss our student body. And now at this time, please stand as the Buffalo American Legion Post 270 honors us with the presentation of colors.
Detail, left, right, march. Left, right, face.
Please remain standing, remove your hats, and sing along with the BHS Concert Band as they perform the national anthem. Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I would like to welcome BHM Executive Student Council member, current president of the Minnesota Association of Student Councils, and our Girls State representative, Senior Amanda Krinke, to the podium. The Buffalo American Legion Auxiliary sponsors the Girls State program, and since 1937, this program provides young women the opportunity to learn firsthand how their state and local government works. Amanda will now lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please join me in the saying of the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Details, post the color. Right shoulder, arm. Left, right, face. Forward, march.
All right, please be seated. All right. Next, I would like to welcome United States Senator Tina Smith to the podium. U.S. Senator Tina Smith has represented Minnesota in Washington, D.C. since January 2018. During her time in the Senate, she has worked to honor the service and sacrifice of veterans in Minnesota and across the country by pushing to ensure that they get all the benefits they've earned. Last year, her office held a series of 12 veterans listening sessions in communities throughout the state to hear firsthand from Minnesota veterans about issues that impact them. And after learning that Minnesota veterans often struggle to get help from hearing loss, Ms. Smith introduced the Veterans Hearing Benefit Act last week to reduce the red tape that they faced in trying to get benefits. And earlier today, Senator Smith was at a farm near Montrose to meet with several local veterans on the board of Veterans Farm Initiative, which helps ensure food security for veterans and helps them learn about sustainable farming practices. And as a part of the Farm Bill signed into law late last year, Senator Smith pushed for provisions that help veterans get into farming. And as a member of the Senate Education Committee, she has visited high schools across the state and today joins us at Buffalo High School to help honor our nation's veterans. Please welcome Ms. Smith to the stage.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am so happy to be here with you today. Thank you so much, Principal Mischke, for welcoming me. You and I have had a chance to meet in Washington, D.C., and congratulations on your many honors as one of the great principals in this state. It's wonderful to be with you. Thank you so much to the Buffalo American Legion for being here with us today. It's my honor to have a chance to help celebrate this Veterans Day with you. And I'm so glad to be here with Superintendent Thielman and also with my former colleagues at the State House, Representative O'Neill and State Senator Anderson. Thank you so much for being here. And the Gaida family, I'm looking forward to hearing more about your incredible service and contributions. And to our students and to all of the students here in the house today, congratulations, and it's wonderful to be here with you. Here we go. So Minnesota has a long and proud tradition of military service, starting with the Civil War. You know, at the outbreak of the Civil War, Minnesota was the newest state in the Union, but we were the very first to volunteer troops in our nation's defense. 24,000 young Minnesotans, including 100 free African Americans, numerous Native Americans, and at least one woman, answered the call, leaving behind their families and their friends and civilian lives in order to serve a higher purpose, defending our nation and the fight for justice. Minnesota author Richard Moe wrote, and I quote, that the soldiers of Minnesota's 1st Regiment were ordinary young men and women who were called upon to do extraordinary things. And those brave Minnesotans began a proud legacy of service for our state. And despite our relatively small population, Minnesotans have made an outsized contributions to our national defense. Those 24,000 Minnesotans who volunteered to join the Civil War effort represented almost 13% of Minnesota's population. And since then, thousands of Minnesotans have answered the call of our nation, serving with courage and honor in numerous deployments and conflicts around the world. So today, we come together to honor veterans from all of our wars. We will never forget your service and our duty to make sure that you receive all of the benefits and care and respect that you have earned. And we know that this sacrifice is not borne solely by veterans. Veterans' families, their spouses, their children, their parents all share in both the honor and the sacrifice of service. So your sacrifice will not be overlooked or forgotten here in this high school today or any place around the country. No veteran or their family should ever hesitate also to seek help if you need it, whether it is help pursuing higher education or finding housing or good jobs or healing the wounds of your service, both mental and physical. I want everyone in this audience to know today that seeking help when you need it, and we all need help at some point in our lives, is a sign of strength and not weakness. The Veterans Administration and hundreds of community and professional organizations all across this state are here to help. And through the Minnesotans VA, our world-class facilities and community rapport support veterans and have made a real commitment. Our veterans served in this country so that all of us can have the freedom and the opportunity to build the lives that we choose to live. That is their gift to all of us. So today we gather to say thank you. Thank you for your service and your sacrifice. We are all so grateful. So thank you again for inviting me to join this celebration, and may God bless you all.
Thank you, Senator Smith. And it is now my honor to welcome the Guida family. I'd like to introduce our guest speakers to you and share a little bit more about them before they come to the stage. Dean Guida is a retired service member after 30 years of active service as a sergeant major in the Minnesota Army National Guard. He worked as a top-ranking recruiting and retention non-commissioned officer for the state of Minnesota prior to his retirement. Greg Guida was honorably discharged as a sergeant after serving 9 years for the Minnesota Army National Guard. During his time in the service, Greg served as an infantryman in 2nd Battalion in the 136th Infantry Division. Nick Guida was also honorably discharged as a sergeant after 5 years of service in the Minnesota National Guard. During that time, he served as the company armorer for the 2nd Battalion in the 136th Infantry Division. And last but certainly not least, Jeannie Guida, proud wife and mother of Nick and Greg. Would you welcome Jeannie Guida to the stage to start our guest speakers?
Thank you. I just have a short poem I want to share with you. It's called The Silent Ranks. I wore no uniform, no blues or army green, but I was in the army, in the ranks rarely seen. I had no rank upon my shoulders, salute I did not give, but the military world is the place where I lived. I was not the chain of command, orders I did not get, but my husband is the one who did. This I cannot forget. I am not the one who fired the weapon, who put my life on the line, but my job is just as tough. I was the one left behind. My husband is a patriot, a brave and prideful man, and the call to serve this country not all can understand. Behind the lines I see the things needed to keep this country free. My husband made the sacrifice, but so did our 2 boys and me. I loved the man I married, soldiering was his life, but I stand amongst the silent ranks, known as the Army wife.
Wow, tough act to follow. Dr. Thielman, Mr. Mischke, fellow veterans, and most importantly, students of Buffalo High School. It is my absolute privilege to be here with my family and be able to speak to you about one of the most significant holidays celebrated in this country, Veterans Day, possibly second only to Memorial Day. I'd like to give you just a little background of how this holiday came about. 100 years ago, World War I ended with the signing of the Treaty of Versailles on June 28, 1919. Excuse me. However, the fighting between the Germans and the U.S. and its allies officially ended on November 11th, on the 11th hour, when they agreed to an armistice. For that reason, November 11, 1918 was considered the end of what was called the War to End All Wars, and was named at that time Armistice Day. In 1926, Congress officially recognized it as the end of the war, and in 1938 it became a federal holiday, primarily a day set aside to honor the veterans of World War I. However, it wasn't the war to end all wars, as World War II and Korea came along. So in 1954, Congress amended the commemoration by changing the title Armistice Day to Veterans Day, so the day would honor all American veterans and all wars. So that's how it stands today. We honor all veterans, both living and dead. I did mention Memorial Day. That day of May honors all veterans who have made the ultimate sacrifice for their country. A very important day indeed. That brings me to how and why I became a veteran, and why being a veteran is one of the most important titles I could ever have, other than being a husband and a father to these 2 veterans joining me today. In January 1967, a young farm kid from Detroit Lakes, Minnesota, stood at a military processing station in Fargo, North Dakota with his right hand raised, reciting an oath of enlistment, pledging to solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and to obey the orders of the President and the officers appointed over me, an oath that each and every veteran takes upon enlistment into the military. At that very moment, we became veterans of the United States military. 1 year later, January 1968, I stepped off a plane in Cam Ranh Bay, Vietnam, becoming a Vietnam veteran. And 3 years later, on October 31st, 1997, I retired from the military, becoming a retired U.S. Army veteran. During the 30-year careers, I worked my way up from a private E1 to my retirement rank of Sergeant Major E9. My veteran message to you today is this: each and every student sitting before me today can achieve whatever you want in life and become whatever you wish to become. I am living proof of that. But it will never be easy, and believe me, nothing will be given to you. You will have to earn it. You have to compete like we did for every advancement and promotion you get. Our service in the military has taught us that. Every veteran sitting here today had to persevere hardship, hard work, and more danger than one can imagine. And they did just that. It wasn't easy, and you earned every medal and award and a promotion. Just getting through basic training and advanced training develops skills and knowledge both physically and mentally that one might have thought unattainable. Life skills that follow one throughout his or her life. As a soldier, sailor, Marine, airman, or Coast Guardsman serving your country, you learn duty, honor, and country. Not just words, but values that you retain for the rest of your life. We live in a great country, and it will remain a great country as long as we have young men and women willing to set aside personal goals and become members of the finest military in the world, another generation of veterans. Students of BHS, as I close, one favor. When you see a member of the armed services or a veteran like those sitting here today, walk up to them, shake their hand, give them a fist pump or a high five, and thank them for their service. I guarantee you they will be very appreciative and thankful. Finally, being a veteran means something that is very important and special to all of us as we face our mortality. On that day when they place us in our final resting place, we will go there with the knowledge that there will be an American flag draped across our casket, and when lifted, it will be folded into a triangular shape 13 times and given to our next of kin. And these words will be spoken, presented to you from a grateful nation. A rifle volley will follow, and then the trumpet off in the distance will play taps. Our day will indeed be done. Proud to be a veteran.
That's awesome. Thanks, Dad. I'd like to thank the superintendent and principal for this invite as well. I really appreciate it. As my father stated, truly an honor and a privilege to have this opportunity to speak in front of fellow veterans, their families, and the students and staff here at BHS. When I heard about this opportunity to speak today and then subsequently asked to speak to the question of what it meant to be a veteran, I was both taken back by the idea and, to be honest, a bit hesitant about speaking on this topic. Even though by definition I am a veteran, I've never really seen myself in that light. I was, as was my brother, fortunate enough to never serve overseas or in a war zone. Never been put into battle for this country like so many others have and have sacrificed their lives and limbs for. I use the term fortunate very carefully because it's not a reflection of call to duty when asked. It's a reflection on the fact that we are fortunate to live in a time of relative peace. And in some contexts, that always made me feel like I was less deserving of the benefits of being a veteran as those who served their country in battle, like many that are here today. As I reflected on this question more and more over the last couple of weeks, I felt a sense of pride knowing that I served this country and I'm standing here speaking on this topic in front of all of you and alongside fellow veterans and their loved ones. As my father did, I'd like to give you a quick rundown of my journey to becoming a veteran before closing out and handing it over to who most of you know as my brother, Nick. I enlisted in the Minnesota Army National Guard in 1993 as a 17-year-old. The decision to enlist was not easy, as some of you may think, with a sergeant major of recruiting and retention as a father. Mostly because at the time when you're 17, you need both parents' consent, and being the baby of the family, my mother would not sign the papers. A fact that I don't remember her having an issue when Nick enlisted. Just recalling that. The summer following my graduation in '94, I was sent to Fort Benning, Georgia to complete my basic training and advanced individual training to become an infantryman. When you graduate from AIT as an Army infantryman, you are awarded a blue cord worn on your right shoulder. Only an Army infantryman is given the blue cord, as it signifies a separate brotherhood that cannot be broken. As an infantryman, they intentionally break you down from your individuality during initial training, only to build you up again, reliant on those you surround yourself with to get through obstacles. And as a veteran, I've been able to carry those core values on throughout my life. I spent 9 years, as mentioned, in the Minnesota Army National Guard, though most of my final year was inactive as I began to pursue my life and career goals. I'm a son to two wonderful parents that have instilled core values in me to make it possible to be a veteran. I'm an okay brother now and then, a husband, a father. I've worked at the same company for 18 years. None of this would be possible without the life lessons learned from my time in the armed services and from those who were closest to me. I'm grateful not just for the financial aspects that have been given to me for having this honor to serve the country, but through the principles that are instilled in me from it. And finally, I wanted to leave you with a quick note that I received last week talking about Veterans Day. My company has an internal veterans outreach program that's led by retired Colonel John Buckley. The Colonel sends out communications reminders of events that may have happened in the historical moments in America's rich history. At the end of each of his communications prior to his signature, he writes in quotation marks, Charlie Mike. For those in the military, one of the first things you learn prior to doing push-ups, obviously, is the phonetic alphabet, Alpha, Bravo, Charlie. Phonetic alphabet is generally used in the military for speaking on the radio to help avoid confusion. Now, it's been a lot of years since I've been in the military, so I did have to do some intensive research on why he signs off in this manner. So I asked Alexa. But after the fifth or sixth time of trying to get her to understand what I was saying, I just went to Google, came right up. Charlie Mike is phonetic for CM, which is an indication for continue mission. The Colonel describes continue mission as being synonymous with pushing through adversity no matter the obstacle, no matter how difficult, and to never quit until the job is done. I think this is a fitting way to sum up the question of what it means to me to be a veteran. So as the Colonel would say, Charlie Mike, go Army, beat Navy. Thank you.
There are memories that we all have that will forever be ingrained in our hearts and our souls. I'm talking about memories that are so vivid they still seem real. The sense of how blue the sky was, the smell of the grass, or the temperature of the air. I have one such memory of when I was a young boy, maybe 8 or 9 years old. My neighborhood friends and I were playing football in the front yard. It was later in the day, about the time my dad would be getting home. You could hear the sound of a car coming down the gravel road. I'd always had great anticipation for my dad to get home. I remember being so excited to see him when he arrived. He stepped out of his vehicle in his military battle dress uniform, and I had this greatest sense of pride in seeing him with all my friends. When I was young, I didn't know exactly what he did. I just knew that he protected our country for the freedoms that we then had. In my mind, at that time, he kept us all safe. Earlier, as Mr. Mischke opened today's program, he referenced this day, November 11th, Veterans Day, as a day to honor our heroes. A hero is defined as a person who is admired or idealized for courage, outstanding achievements, or noble qualities. The veterans you see in front of you today are heroes. Although Mr. Mischke may look a lot older than I, we are the same age. If we were neighborhood friends playing football in my front yard nearly 40 years ago, and he were to ask me who my hero was, it would have been easy for me to answer, my hero is my dad. Fast forward 10 years from that time to the spring of 1991. In the same military processing station in Fargo, North Dakota, 20 years after my dad, I swore the same oath as he did, to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America, all enemies, foreign and domestic. This was a significant day for me. The reason was twofold. One, I wanted to help protect the liberty and freedoms of a country that I had come to love. And number two, I wanted to make my family proud. That fall, I started my active duty training. I was shipped to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri for basic training. From there, I moved to advanced individual training at Fort Lee, Virginia. For the next 9 years, I had the opportunity to train next to some remarkable service members, 2 of which are on stage here with me today. During that time of service, I learned many values that are still with me to this very day. I've learned about being disciplined and how it can positively impact your life in so many different ways. I've learned the importance of teamwork and how it plays into the achievement of common goals, however big or small. I've learned that no matter what you do in life, focusing on the details and your approach to them can make a significant difference in the outcome you desire. I could go on about what I've learned from the military experience I've had and what it's done to come to define me. What I'd like to challenge each of you now is to take time to reflect upon what you've learned about yourself up to this point in your life. What do you stand for? What values do you possess? How might you make a positive impact on this school or the community that you live in? I'd also like to challenge you to always consider and be thankful for those who have served in the past and those who serve today. Consider the sacrifices they and their families have made so that we have the freedoms we enjoy. Yes, today is a holiday in which we thank and honor our veterans, our heroes. That said, we should be cognizant of honoring our heroes each and every day, not just this day. Lastly, to the person who I admire for his courage, his outstanding achievements, and his noble qualities, my hero as a kid and my hero today, my dad. Thank you all for your service. Thank you all for your sacrifice.
All right. How about, would you join me in one more round of applause for the Guida family, please? All right. Thank you. Now, as today is Veterans Day, I would like to now take the opportunity to recognize our veterans and those who are currently active in the military. So at this time, veterans in the audience, please stand to be recognized if you are able. Stay up. Veterans, if you would please stay standing. Now I would like to take part in a little activity for the rest of the people in the audience. So at this time, please stand if you plan to serve in the military after graduation and also remain standing. So students that are planning to serve, please stand at this time. Thank you. Lastly, please stand if you have a family member that is currently serving or have had a family member serve in the military. Please stand and remain standing. You may be seated. Before moving forward, there is one additional person, Mr. McAllister in the audience. I'm looking. Is he here? There he is. I do have one person I would like to introduce to you and thank in particular, or specifically I should say. I'd like to make you aware that we have a World War II veteran in attendance. Mr. Jack McAllister, hold your... Thank you, sir. Come on up, Mr. McAllister. Absolutely. Yes, you can. 93 next month. Now, Mr. McAllister, it is my understanding that you enlisted at the age of 17. Is that correct? In 1944 into the Navy, and has joined us here today to be a part of our audience and to honor not only himself but our fellow veterans. So thank you again, Mr. McAllister, for being with us today. All right. Next, in recognition of all of our veterans present here today with us, our BHS concert band will be performing the Armed Forces Salute. Veterans, please stand and be recognized as I announce and you hear the song of your branch of service. The United States Army. The United States Marines. The United States Navy. Next, I would like to welcome BHS Senior Sam Backus to the podium to share with us a poem in honor of our veterans.
The title of this poem is called Stepping Forward. The reason that we selected this particular poem was because it highlights the sacrifices that our veterans have made to protect our freedom and our country. Stepping forward. Their dream was to create a nation where freedom could reign. But who would protect that freedom? Because freedom is not free. So they came forward, brave men and women who would risk it all, so that we could live free. They answered the call, willing to give it all. They defended our nation and held our flag high. They took a brave stand to defend this land, and they served with courage, honor, integrity, commitment, valor, character, bravery, sacrifice, dedication, and excellence. Veterans, we will always remember, we will always be proud. There are no words big enough, there's not a hug strong enough, no smile wide enough. All that I can offer is thank you. You are our hero. You are forever in our thoughts and our prayers. And for all that you have done, thank you, and we salute you.
All right. Now I'd like to introduce BHS Senior Lucy Johnson to tell us about the Wright County Blue Star Mothers Organization.
Okay. Blue Star Mothers is an organization of moms who have children currently serving in the military or whose children served and are now veterans. Blue Star Mothers of Wright County will be sending 300 hand-decorated Christmas stockings filled with at least 1 dozen homemade cookies and other goodies donated by our community. On behalf of Buffalo High School, I am proud to present Blue Star Mothers of Wright County President, Jen Pecorina. Hundreds of cards written by our student body that will also be sent with these Christmas stockings as well. Additionally, I am honored to present $820 from donations here at BHS that will help ensure these Christmas stockings will reach our service members in time for the holidays. Thank you, Blue Star Mothers and Buffalo High School.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Lucy. Do you want to help her get to where she needs to be? All right. At this time, we are going to retire the colors. And so I would ask that everyone in the audience please stand and remain silent to pay respect as we prepare to bring our ceremony to a close.
Detail, right shoulder, arm. Forward, mark. Lift, 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 lift. Retrieve the color. About face. Forward, mark. Detail, forward, mark. Lift, 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 lift. Lift.
At this time, you may be seated. I want to extend a thank you to all of you for joining us in honoring our veterans today. We will dismiss sections one at a time and would request that our guests and veterans stay until our student body is dismissed. Thanks again for attending our Veterans Day program, and have a great afternoon.